Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to call the February meeting to order. Just as a note, Dr. Pingarelli is very ill and won't be joining us tonight. I'll move on to item number 3 on the agenda. I would entertain a motion to adopt the agenda.
Mr. Co-Chair,
Yes, sir.
I would like to take the opportunity to voice my objection to the agenda. As you know, for the past 3 months, I have requested an action item on the agenda addressing the salary. And through subterfuge and camouflage, you and the chairman have figured out a way to keep putting it off. There were 2 separate issues. One, to bring our salaries in line with what they should be, and another one in March to look at specific situations. I just really think it's incredibly unprofessional for you to do that to a board member. Remember, if he can do that to me, he can do it to you, and they can do it to you too. So I just want a roll call vote, because I will not vote for the agenda.
That is fine. Dr. Pingarelli set the agenda, so Ms. Hanberry, can you do a roll call? Is there a second on the motion?
I'll second.
All right,
Who was the first?
Mr. Stricker was the first.
I made the motion. Or do we have 1, 2, 3, 4?
We have 2 board members on.
Is Mr. Ramirez on the phone? Okay, so we just have 4. All right.
Ms. Guzman? Here.
For the agenda, yes or no, please?
Well, I'd like to pull,
We can get to that, but are you okay with the agenda as presented?
okay, yes. Let me unmute
Mr. Garcia? Roll call vote on the agenda, sir.
What's on the table right now?
A roll call vote
Present.
to accept the agenda.
Oh, I approve. We're getting bad echo.
Mr. Mariano
No.
and Mr. Ramirez is not available. Ms. Wiley?
Yes.
Mr. Straka?
Yes.
And Dr. Pingarelli is also not available.
All right, the motion passes. We will proceed with the agenda. At this time, I'd like to call Ms. Tracy Rockwell forward to lead the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. Would everybody please stand?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We can move on to item number 6, the minutes. Did anyone have any corrections to the minutes? All right, hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll make a motion, we approve the minutes as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All in favor of the minutes as presented, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Moving on to item number 7. Ms. Markham. Come on up. Ms. Markham has been here since 2007. When did you join West-MEC?
On my birthday. Seriously, it's my birthday, September 10th.
Okay. But you've been an outstanding team, part of the team for West-MEC, and for 16 years. And probably a lot of the growth is because of a lot of the things that you've done over the past 16 years. You've been vital, not only as the executive assistant, but as a lot of people may or may not know, Dee also is the board secretary. She is the one who got all the calls from the board for the past 16 years. And there's been a few. She also was the one who would call the board for board meetings and try to schedule special board meetings. Planned our travel, planned our emails. She's done a lot, not just for West-MEC, but for the board, and for me personally, why I was chairman during some of that time. Not only that, but you really helped launch the West-MEC Foundation, which is the charity part that supports our West-MEC students in a way that a public school district can't. And just during your tenure, you started at 4949. And if you haven't seen 4949, it's a little bit interesting. Down on Indian School and 50th Avenue, not the best part of town. Just to say how grateful we are and thank you just does not seem to be enough for everything you've done. 16 years of amazing service. And one of the stories that I'm most reminded of, and I just think it's funny, and we talked about it before, a lot of you do not know, but when Dee came to us, she was Dee Dugan. And I remember one board meeting, Mr. Kaltenbach said, Miss Dugan has a new name. She's got married, congratulations. And but that was part of a family, and you've been part of our family for 16 years. I remember I've seen you grow so much in your leadership. I remember you presenting, I think it was at the Philadelphia School Board Conference, and just what a fantastic job you did. I have so many good memories of everything you've done to bring West-MEC forward. And like I said, thank you. We're just very grateful for everything you have done and what you've made West-MEC today. And we wish you the best in your retirement. We know that grandchildren are waiting in North Carolina, so we won't stand in the way, but your next chapter will be terrific. And we thank you really for just everything. We also have a couple of things for you. One is we have just to recognize your 16 years of service. And I don't want to take it out because thank you for 16 amazing years. Okay.
Make it official.
All right. And then if we could get the whole board up here with Ms. Markham. I'm just gonna put that back there. And let's just put her in the center. Dr. Spurgeon, do you want to join us? Sure. Mr. Miglerino, one more, sorry.
I figured the camera was broke now.
You know, if they can interrupt a basketball game for LeBron James scoring a few points, I think we can take all the time we need to celebrate Dee. Thank you. Finally, one last thing we have, I think most of us have signed it, but the staff has signed a card for Dee. And so we'll put this back here that if anyone else would like to sign it tonight, it's something to remember us by.
You put it out in the garage.
Or above your fireplace, nicely framed. But thank you for everything. Last, I'd like to, if any board members would like to make any comments about Dee, I turn the floor over to you, or anyone here.
Can it be about anything?
Anything you want to talk about, Ms. Markham? Any good stories?
On that, I signed just simply a wonderful person. You know, a lot of thought went into the people that put this place together. You're all out there. Dee was an integral part from way back. That's important. It's important for the superintendent to have the backup and support that they can count on 100%, not 99. And she was always there, would always get the message through, would always get back with the information that I requested. Dee, thank you so much. Again, I said it before, enjoy that retirement, enjoy those grandkids, and I hope you get those great grandkids because there's nothing better.
Anybody else?
Well, I basically already said, but some people never make it to retirement. So just to make it to retirement is huge, and enjoy it. It's great.
And I just want to say that, you know, I'm one of the newest members on the board here, and Dee has just been wonderful. You know, I couldn't ask for anybody more special. She bent over backwards to help me any way she can. So, both her and Vicki too. Good people. So, congratulations.
Mr. Ramirez, Mr. Garcia, would you like to make any comments?
Well, absolutely. Dee is she's really helped out bringing us on board. I think she was very responsive, and she's a true professional. Sad to see her leave. I wish she'd hang out a little bit. But you know, family priorities take precedence. So, but definitely a class act, and wherever she goes, she's going to do well. And if she ever rejoins the workforce, I'm sure someone will definitely appreciate her work ethic. Thank you, Dee.
Hello, Dee. Hello, board. Sorry I couldn't be there today in person. But yes, I definitely have some kind words for Dee. She was very, very welcoming, very grateful for her. Made a transition onto the board very easy. Again, a warm person, very kind-hearted. Anytime I needed anything or wanted to attend an event, or she herself would send me emails about events that were happening that I might be interested in. So always very supportive, very helpful, very resourceful. Very thankful for you, Dee. Thank you.
All right. Again, Dee, thank you. Also, I believe Doug, her husband, is here. Did we want to recognize him as well? Is he here?
Yes.
Yeah. Doug, if you just, this is the man who loaned Dee to us for the past 16 years. So if you'd also like to stand and be recognized, thank you very much. All right. Moving on to current events, it's tough to top.
It is tough to top. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just want to mention just a few activities. We had a number of them since the last time we met, but just want to mention a few because I've got some other recognitions I'd like to do after this. But at the request of Dr. Pingarelli, he asked us to meet with Don Price, who runs the Ability 360 facility, and so we had a chance to do that. And what a great facility and a great operations there. Just met some great people, and so we're hoping that there might be some pathways, a couple of pathways, maybe in nursing or physical therapy, that we might be able to partner them with, whether it's job shadowing, internships, externships, or some work-based learning. And so we're in conversations with Don and the folks at his facility. We had a principal from Tolleson High School, Felipe, came and visited our Northeast campus. He was interested in looking at our auto collision program. They have an automotive program there now, and he wanted to see what our operation looked like, so I had a great tour with him. We had Dr. Tyner, the president for Ottawa University, and the chancellor also came to visit Northwest Campus to see what our operation looked like and where those pathways might exist for the Ottawa University, because they're looking at maybe starting one or two, and so we're looking to see which programs and pathways might fit well with Ottawa University. And then we gave a tour of the Northwest Campus. We had 7 superintendents from Colorado Springs area in last week, and they're looking to start a collaborative or consortium CTE program that will collect students from rural areas. And so they came in to see our facility and talk about business partnerships, enrollment, and all the ins and outs of how you start a brand new program. And so I think they left here with probably more information than what they thought they would get the first time. But we're here to support them, and we'll be in contact with them to make sure they get off and running onto a good start. CJ and I got a chance to meet with the new mayor in Peoria, Mayor Beck. And he has some pretty great plans for the area of Peoria, especially up north, where I know he'd like to put a new airport up in Peoria. And so we've talked to him about the possibility of us having a piece of that footprint, and he's very amenable to that and agreeable. So we had a great conversation. And then the last thing, something that's a little different for us, we hosted for the city of Glendale, it was called Esports, a big game event, and we held it at our Start campus. And we had gamers and gamer professionals from all around, and so esports is becoming a major deal around America, and we think Glendale could be a big place for us to start looking at ways in which we might be able to incorporate esports, EA Sports, gaming. Online gaming is huge, and the technology that it brings is significant. And so we hope that maybe we're that incubator that kind of starts the process of moving Glendale into a new way of doing things in technology. So we're excited about that. The other couple things that I'm excited about is last week I was able to participate in the ASPRA awards for school professionals in communications. And so I want to read this statement. The Aspiration Awards program recognizes creative and effective work in school communications. In each award-winning submission, districts demonstrated to the judges why these projects were needed, what research went into producing them, how these projects were implemented and communicated, and how success was measured and evaluated. These award submissions were reviewed and judged by other school PR professionals around the country. Those who received awards of merit met the minimum requirement to demonstrate all these areas. For those who received awards of excellence, they went above and beyond to achieve the highest scores possible within the awards criteria. West-MEC's communications team received an award of merit for teacher impact video and 2 awards of excellence for the new West-MEC website and its CTE month social media campaign. So I'd like to recognize Mr. Cook, if you'd like to come up, I'd like to recognize the communications department for a job well done. 3 great awards. I call that stacking brass. It's always good to stack brass, win some awards. The other thing that I think is really cool, and I've always really appreciated the proclamations that mayors or elected officials make. And so I believe it was a couple of nights ago, I believe Mr. Guy Jarrett and Mike New from Buckeye went to the city council meeting, and Mayor Osborne submitted a proclamation for CTE month, so I'd like to read that. It says, whereas February the 23rd has been designated Career and Technical Education Month by the Association for Career and Technical Education of Arizona, National Association for Career and Technical Education, and whereas Career and Technical Education provides students with authentic career exploration earlier in their educational experience, which enables them to make informed decisions about their future career pathways, and whereas Career and Technical Education gives high school students experience in practical, meaningful applications of basic skills such as reading, writing, and mathematics, thus improving the quality of their education, motivating potential dropouts, and giving all students leadership opportunities in their career fields and in their communities. And whereas Career and Technical Education offers individuals lifelong opportunities to learn new skills, which provides them with career choices and potential satisfaction. And whereas Educators Rising, JROTC, FBLA, FCCLA, FFA, HOSA, and Skills USA are nonprofit educational.
Recording in progress.
student leadership organizations whose purpose is to develop the leaders of a future workforce. It says, now therefore be it known that I, Eric W. Osborne, Mayor of the City of Buckeye, do hereby proclaim the month of February 23rd, 2023 as Career and Technical Education Month. We just want to recognize Mayor Osborne for his tremendous support for us in the Buckeye School District. So thank you to Mayor Osborne, and it is Career and Technical Education Month, the whole month of February. So that's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Any board members, any reports?
Yeah. I visited the Peoria Unified School District, actually Peoria High School, with Barb Coakley, and visited some of the classes there, as well as some of the teachers. And then later I met with Tracy Mayfield with the Glendale High School. And then a few days later that I met, because Amanda Shively wasn't there the first day that I went there, and so I got to visit her and the CTA director and Stephen, and it was just a remarkable experience, and just how well, those classes are running and stuff. It was very informative, so it was good going there. That's awesome. Yeah.
Mr. Ramirez, Mr. Garcia, anything to report?
Yeah, so currently I'm at the NGA conference, the National Governors Association conference, and it's a conference in Washington D.C. With a conversation on workforce, and all the states are represented in this conference, and this is day 3. So I basically have heard quite a bit of what the states are doing, and CTE is, boy, it's an important thing to a lot of states. Not all states have CTEs, and I didn't realize that actually. And to hear the struggles that they're going through, I'm just very appreciative that West-MEC is a well-oiled machine in a lot of ways, light years ahead of a lot of places. I didn't want to brag about West-MEC, or they're going to start coming down, duplicating our services, and that's going to make us less competitive. But it was just interesting, and to me, it gives me that appreciation for our organization down there and all the hard work that we're doing. Hats off. I mean, it's an eye opener when you hear that the states are struggling with their talent pool and developing their youth, and here we have a great system. And that's why we talk about compensation and keeping the machine going. I think is a very important thing. So I just wanted to add that in there. I'm still here for a couple of days. The governor will be here on Saturday. So all the governors of the states will be here on Saturday. So it's going to be interesting. It's a very important thing. Workforce it's impacting every state of the union, and everyone's got similar issues. But we got West-MEC, so we're good.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Ramirez? Anything?
Vice Chairman Straka, nothing from me, thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. McLarino? Ms. Marley? All right. All right, consent agenda. I think, Ms. Wiley, you asked for item G, and I would like to pull item H more just so we could get more details about these 2 items. Is there anything else anybody would like to pull?
I'd like to pull E1, travel.
E1? Okay. Would someone like to approve the consent agenda except for E1, G, and H? Or does someone like to make a motion to approve all but those 3 items?
I'll make a motion to approve except for those.
Mr. Chair, before we vote,
Is there something you want to pull, sir?
I have a question. We didn't discuss what we tabled last meeting, which were the salary schedules and stuff like that. Were we still gonna speak about that, or is that still executive session?
Dr. Pingarelli moved that to the March meeting.
Okay. Is there a reason why we're not addressing that now?
What?
There's a reason.
March is when we normally do salary and raises of the staff.
Hold on, Mr. Chair. I've been calling for that since December. And you and Peter have sabotaged it all along. Now, I understand how the voting goes. And I understand where you're gonna vote, and he's gonna vote, and probably maybe another vote. But how long can you do that and hold on to what I call professionalism?
This was
We
Peter's-
do March, we do salaries every year. This was a separate item to bring our salaries in line with where they should be, so that we could hire the best and brightest people and retain those people that have made West-MEC A++. And you're telling me as a board member, my requests aren't important. And not one call from you or Peter to me explain why we're not doing it, other than we do salaries in March.
It was Dr. Prangarelli's decision when he met with Dr. Spurgeon.
And you had nothing to do with it.
I joined the call, and I didn't say much other than I said he wanted to push the contracts. I said we should at least address contracts in February, because we were gonna push that as well.
Well, Mr. Garcia, what I would like to say at this point, you can't imagine my disappointment. You even know that when somebody was gonna run against you last time, I talked them out of it.
So I appreciate.
It's like having a carpet pulled from underneath you.
We really need to stick to the agenda here, and the.
Okay, then, as part of the agenda, well, I'll wait till later, because I'm gonna make another request when we go to the board at the end.
And
Thank you for the time.
you're welcome. We are discussing the consent agenda. The motion was made by Ms. Wiley, and was it seconded?
Yeah.
And it was seconded, so we're gonna pull the travel item E1 and then G and H. Is there any other discussion? Is there any request for anything else to be pulled from the consent agenda? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. So that passes. Can we, I think you want questions. What are your questions? We'll take them one at a time.
Okay.
E1.
E1, I wanted to pull it because we're supposed to approve the travel, but this has already happened. It happened on February 1st through January 1st through 3rd of this month. Shouldn't it have been on last month's?
It really kind of depends on the dates. Sometimes the dates come up and there's no other time to do that. But typically, I don't know that the board's actually approved the travel. I think they just wanted to know about it. If I'm not mistaken, Mr. Strick, I believe the board just wanted to know about the travel.
I think we have to approve it.
Okay.
So it should be approved in advance. Great catch. I guess we would just ask that in the future, either work with the chairman to have a special meeting to approve travel or something.
Yeah, we'll catch it. And sometimes the dates don't coincide because we only meet once a month. So every once in a while, there's going to be something that'll slip through the cracks. So and if it's a major ordeal or whatever, typically I'll email the chairman and say, this is what happened. We'll have to get through that. So this was kind of one of those last minutes where we thought we were going to go in January. It didn't happen in January. This just happened to be when they could actually take us. And really the reason why they went is I sent them because Maryville is one of the top IT security universities in the United States, and they have a beautiful lab. And so we're trying to get ideas for the Southwest campus and potentially for the Northwest campus for a new build out of a brand new cybersecurity lab. So it was really to go find out. I benchmark districts and benchmark programs so we can actually go get ideas about things that we can do to see, and then how can we make it better when we do our build out. We'll get you. Yes.
Things like that do happen. And for all the years I've been on the board, it's been very few times, but rather than hold a special session and interrupt 7 people's schedules, plus the others that need to be there, we have done it. Now, if we see something that doesn't look right, you always have a chance to change it. But you're saying you would like to see a special session called if something like that comes up.
I think if we're gonna put it on the agenda, and you're putting it on there after it's already happened, we're supposed to approve it. And we can't approve something that's already in the past.
And your point is?
And that is my point.
Thank you.
Item G. Ms. Wiley, your questions?
Item G. Just the second and third, just explain to me what that is. That's problem. I know it's simple, but
No, well, it's not simple. So Governing Board Member Wiley, Chairperson Straka, good question. This came out of last legislative season. There was a proposed bill that would do a statewide articulation of community college credits so that a student who's taking automotives at West-MEC and a student who's taking automotives at EVIT both knew that they would get, let's say AUT 101, dual enrollment credit from the college system. Because the Maricopa County Community College District has multiple campuses, it depends on the college, like what we would get from Australia Community College and what we would get from GCC might be different answers. So there was some legislation to say, hey, can we do like a statewide articulation? Through the legislative process, this is a good example of where folks said, like common sense prevailed, and they said, hey, instead of creating more laws, can we just all get around the table and make a deal? And so the legislature had said, boy, that would be great. Since then, EVIT, West-MEC, and Maricopa Community College District, they did get around the table. They worked to create the deal that's in front of you, and what that deal does is it says it's going to create this task force, right? Because still government agencies with some bureaucracy, so they're going to create this task force, and this task force is going to kind of go through those standards and say both students at EVIT and West-MEC are taking these standards, these industry standards, and they're taking these ASE credentials. So regardless of what community college it is, whether it's Mesa Community College or GCC, this is the credit that they will get. So we're going to kind of create this task force that comes up with known credits so that students don't have to guess and families don't have to guess on college credit, but there would be a common list and consistency, regardless of where they're at. So that's the purpose of number 2 and number 3.
thank you.
Thank you.
That's what I wanted.
And then my question on donation of 0.18 acres, I was just curious where it was, and then I thought school districts had to sell it based on an appraised value.
Vice Chairman Straka, thank you for the question. So this is unique, and I understand I'm talking to somebody who knows real estate better than I do, so I'm going to be very careful. But we did consult with our land and property attorney on this specific conveyance. It's not uncommon, as I'm told, for prior conveyance at the point of sale to go back and be corrected.
So this is a correction, this is a
correction, and it does not change the use of the property, or access to any of the property as purchased in the original agreement. It just allows for that underground irrigation facility to be used by SRP and the Bureau of Reclamation.
So it's like an easement.
It is.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Thank you. I'd entertain a motion to approve the 3 items.
I will make a motion to approve the 3 items.
Second?
Second. All right. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Call to the public. I have 1 card. Carol Rossano, please tell me I did that right.
Good evening, Chairman, Dr. Pingarelli, members of the board, Dr. Spurgeon, colleagues and visitors. My name is Carol Rossano. I'm in my 7th year with West-MEC and I work in student services. The idea of granting a staff a $15,000 raise has been brought up. This boost ought to apply to the entire district. Between 2018 and 2020, the state mandated an obligatory 20% raise for teachers. For several years, West-MEC's compensation range was a ceiling on many district employees' pay. Although the cap was removed last year, there had been numerous years without pay increase or a cost of living adjustment for many employees. Vote for the salary increase for everybody. Tonight, I'd like to do an analogy with you. Imagine a lovely tree covered with leaves. West-MEC students are those leaves. Those leaves would only be present with roots, trunk, and the supporting branches. Student service is the tree's roots. The recruiters are busy visiting parents and students, providing information about West-MEC, the programs we offer, and the application process. They're active on weekdays, weekends, and evenings. Student Services collaborates with counselors from member districts, charter schools, private schools, to let them know the programs that are available to their students and the application and how the application process works. We regularly work with families of online and homeschool students to inform them about the West-MEC programs. The first priority deadline for applications was February 1st. We received over 2,900 completed applications last week. Every application is reviewed by Student Services and then by campus counselors to make sure the applicants meet the requirements for the programs they apply to. This process helps with the right student for the right program, which leads to student success and retention. This process continues to April 1st or until all the seats of a specific program are filled. We now leave the root system and we move on to the trunk, or the support system. All the departments assist students. IT ensures their students, staff, and faculty members have access to Wi-Fi, spyware, software, Zoom meetings, and hardware functioning correctly. Computers are a necessity for everyone. Our maintenance division keeps the buildings tidy, secure, and functional. The business office handles all purchases requests for the entire district so teachers and students can have their needed supplies. Teaching and learning department support teachers and assist the supports and assists instructors in the classroom. They also keep tabs on all data, student progress, statistics, and trends. ESS liaisons assist teachers working with students who have IEPs and 504s. The students have access to dual enrollment, concurrent credits, and PLA options thanks to our post-secondary liaison. Career coaches assist the teachers in obtaining certification exams. The coaches help our students with building a resume and sitting for mock interviews. Campus counselors keep an eye on those D's and F's to support students who are struggling. To keep the West-MEC brand in the public's eye, PR keeps an eye on social media, produces films and slideshows for presentations, local news stories, articles, and informational flyers. PD offers classes to counselors and teachers for continuing education in classroom management, computer tips, CTSO processes, and many other topics. I'm sorry if I overlooked a department, but I only have 3 minutes to speak. With the tree's trunk, we go up to the branches. These are the campus administrators, their support staff, including assistant administrators, campus counselors, career coaches, instructors, IT, maintenance, administration personnel. The staff manages a daily influx of hundreds of students, tours, and events while fostering a stimulating environment for our pupils. The right student, the right program, and a robust support system contribute to student success. We work together as one magnificent tree. Please ensure that the raise applies to the entire tree. Many thanks.
Thank you. Any other calls to the public? Ms. Hanberry? All right. I'll move on to legislative updates. Mr. Williams, welcome back.
Thank you, Vice Chairman Straka, members of the board, Superintendent Spurgeon. Thank you again for the opportunity to share some updates in the world of business development and government affairs. In just a few days, we've got a football game that's happening across the street, Super Bowl 57, and spotlight is on Glendale, Arizona, and the West Valley, and we're happy to be a part of it. I want to share just some numbers associated with this week and this weekend. We've got, they estimate, well over 100,000 people coming to the West Valley for the Super Bowl and associated events. That stadium will welcome 73,000 attendees in person. That certainly won't be me in that crowd, but I'll be part of the nearly 200 million watching from home. And those folks at home will see the gem that the West Valley really is here in Arizona, and those that are experiencing it in person will figure out how to sell their home from wherever they came from, in Philadelphia, Kansas City, and make the West Valley home. And I say all of this because this is only going to further the growth that's happening in this region. This is only going to further relocation of big companies, middle-sized companies, small businesses. Dr. Spurgeon and I met a company a small chiropractor that relocated here because they just fell in love with the West Valley. So this is going to continue to happen, and this will only further promote that. And we are excited to be a part of that growth and be a part of the answer to the workforce demand that is the result. And in really helping to build those strong communities, one pathway, one credential, one college entrance, one student at a time. On the business development front, Dr. Spurgeon touched on a few of those things in the conversations that we've been having. Also very much enjoyed the tour of Ability 360 and talking about the connections and alignment with West-MEC programs. There's many of them. And some that you may not automatically think of, but as we toured the sports and fitness facility there, there's very customized equipment that goes along with those activities, and we immediately thought of welding and precision manufacturing and how those students can come and see an application like that that would be unique. We also, we did meet with Mayor Beck, and he wears two stakeholder hats. So he is the mayor of the city of Peoria, but he's also a business owner within our district, and a big one at that. And he is very interested in the pathways from West-MEC, specifically welding, precision machining, and has committed two $2,500 scholarships to West-MEC students in those areas, as well as to hosting work-based learning opportunities and hiring those students. So we appreciate his partnership. And just yesterday, Dr. Spurgeon, Stephen Welch, and myself had the chance to meet with Banner Health, and specifically Noelle Trinder. She's their Senior Director of Healthcare Careers, part of their executive team at Banner Health. And we're very excited about where that partnership's going to go. They have committed their full engagement as we begin to vision and strategize around healthcare programs in the areas, and this was echoed by Abrazo, but nursing, medical assisting, CNAs, diagnostic imaging, things like radiology, MRI techs, ultrasound techs, x-ray techs. So we're very excited about working with Arizona's largest private employer, and look forward to those continued conversations. On the legislative front, we'll start with the headline, the aggregate expenditure limit, and whether or not that was going to be overridden by the legislature this year. And Senate took action today, following suit from the House action yesterday, officially overriding that aggregate expenditure limit for fiscal year 23. So that means that we will continue to have full access to our appropriated budget through fiscal year 23, so through June. And that's a one-year fix. So we will look at that conversation again next year for fiscal year 24, whether or not that's addressed by during the current legislative session, or future action is to be seen. But as I was at the Senate chamber today as they took that vote, and some of the comments echoed around that for those that wanted to explain their no vote on that, was really about increased accountability and transparency. And I'll say West-MEC is no stranger to accountability and being looked at as a career and technical education district, and we welcome that. We certainly would invite the opportunity to celebrate our success, the results, our data, and be held accountable in that way. Also, tracking through the legislature is Senate Bill 1272, and that's really a cleanup bill related to the fourth-year funding that was approved last year for grade 9 or 13. And I won't go into the full language of the bill, but some of the key provisions of that is that it would remove the requirement of the Office of Economic Opportunity Regional In-Demand List, in addition to the list that's already in place from the Department of Education. So there is an approved CTE list that exists and is issued and approved by the Department of Education each year. So we would like for that list to be what allows funding for grades 9 or 12. It also removes the stipulation that for 9th grade funding, you would have to wait for that student's 40th day of their junior year. So it really cleans up that bill. We appreciate the legislature's efforts around four-year funding for our students, and look forward to seeing that bill go through. And then lastly, kind of on both the legislative and business development sides of the coin, is Senator Sina Kerr invited Dr. Spurgeon and I to meet with the University of Arizona. as she had been talking in separate occasions about IT security, cybersecurity, and the really internationally recognized model that is at the University of Arizona, and wanted to articulate pathways with West-MEC and how students could take advantage of our programs, really leverage their dual enrollment, both at their home high school as well as dual enrollment earned through West-MEC's IT security programming into a bachelor's through the cybersecurity program at U of A. So look forward to those conversations continued. With that, I stand for any questions.
You mentioned Abrazo and Banner. Are they gonna have people on our advisory board?
They are, and they have program level engagement right now. So you'll remember in the fall, we talked about levels of connecting with West-MEC, those impressions, those engagements, and that strategic partnership. So they're engaged. We really look forward to them both becoming strategic partners and helping the development of future programming and supporting programs. Banner has done tremendous work around helping to streamline the affiliation agreement process and all the paperwork that goes into hosting a student extern. And we asked the question, Dr. Spurgeon asked the question yesterday, just because we don't live in that world, how well do the health systems play together? Like, is there some sense of competition? Can we all have one meeting together? Do we have to meet with Banner separate from Abrazo? And they said, no, we've got alliances. We're very much, we play well in the sandbox together. We articulate these agreements together. So, and in the West Valley, out in Buckeye specifically, off Verrado Way and I-10, Abrazo is building a facility just south, and Banner Buckeye is going to be located just north. And we've got Banner Estrella just across the freeway here. We also talked about the potential if they are awarded a grant expansion, Project Search being offered at their Banner Thunderbird location. So really, really exciting conversations.
Good.
Yep.
Any update on the budget? I saw the current budget failed the House. What's the story? Where's that headed?
Yeah, I don't have an update unless something happened this afternoon. What you just briefly captured is where I know that it's at. This Senate sent theirs over, House has yet to, but there was talk about there being some kind of behind the scenes tie to the aggregate expenditure limit conversation, but we'll see where that goes. I would expect that budget would go over.
That was a flat budget, no increase.
Correct. They call it the skinny budget or a continuation budget, which the governor has said is a non-starter. So we'll let the negotiations begin.
So there is no news on the budget. Okay. Very good.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Jared, Guy. HOSA.
Good evening, Chairman, Vice
Chairman, thank you.
Straka, members of the board, Dr. Spurgeon. I'm excited, first of all, to introduce this presentation tonight, and very quickly I'll be turning it over to the real stars of the show, which will be our teachers and students. So, but just to give us a big picture look at our CTSOs, and just as a reminder, as we're working to achieve our important mission here at West-MEC, how we achieve that mission, a vehicle into how we do that is through our CTE delivery model. And so in conjunction with that high quality classroom instruction, hands-on instruction in labs, and work-based learning, leadership development is a critical tenet to our model. And CTSOs provide us, are a key piece of that leadership development, and the different CTSO chapters provide the structure for our students to experience those leadership activities, apply that knowledge in competitive settings at the regional, state, and national level, and really apply what they're learning in leadership and professional skills. HOSA specifically is our health occupation programs CTSO that they're a part of. And although tonight you're going to see two just excellent chapters, they're really a representative of the great work happening in HOSA across our district. Students continue to see success at all levels, at the state and national level with HOSA, serving our community throughout the West-MEC boundaries. So just know what you're going to see tonight is just an example of the great work that's happening across the district with our students and leadership development through HOSA. So with that, I'm excited to turn it over to Ms. Lisa Fleming and Mr. Trevor Rice, advisor and teacher of physical therapy at Southwest Campus and veterinary sciences at Southwest Campus, and they will introduce their students.
Yes. Thank you, Chairman, board members, and Superintendent Spurgeon for allowing our students to introduce themselves and present about their West-MEC experiences, as well as CTSO integration in their communities and in the classroom.
Good evening, Governing Board, Mr. Straka and Superintendent Spurgeon. We are officers representing West-MEC Southwest Campus Physical Therapy and Veterinary Science.
How should we go about switching the slides? Can you give them a clicker? Sorry.
My name is Isabel Guy. I'm a senior at Verado High School, and I am the AM PT class president.
I'm Liam Laraka. I am a homeschool junior, and I am the PM PT class president.
My name is Susan Bourbon. I am a senior at Estrella Foothills High School. I am the president of the junior class, the AM class.
Hi, I'm Isabella Campbell. I'm a senior at University High School. I'm the chapter president for the PM senior class.
So our HOSA chapters, first is physical therapy. In our AM physical therapy class, we have 23 members. In our PM physical therapy class, we have 22 members. In each class, we have 5 committees, all the same. So it's HOSA activities committee, social activities committee, community service committee, fundraising committee, and public relations committee. Without all these committees, our chapter would not be able to run, and especially not smoothly. For example, our fundraising committee, they find fundraisers for us to participate in so that we can benefit our chapters.
So the AM veterinary science class consists of 27 members, and the PM veterinary science class consists of 17 members. Both have 4 committees consisting of the HOSA committee, the celebrations and fundraising committee, the guest speaker and community service committee, as well as the yearbook and the newsletter committee. One committee that's really important to us is community service, as it has allowed us to interact with Desert Harbor Doberman Foundation, in which we make meatballs for Tiki, a dog with mega esophagus.
In order to fulfill this year's HOSA theme of reaching new altitudes, we established some goals for this year. All 4 of our chapters will obtain all bronze, silver, and gold chapter awards. Each of our chapters will perform over 1,000 hours of community service, and lastly, we shall continue to increase our HOSA social media to reach and create new members.
In our HOSA, each member is required to perform at least 20 hours of community service in local or state organizations. Some are listed on the slide here. Most notably, to me, is Donate Life. We partnered up with an organization called Donate Life to sign up people to become organ donors.
Thanks to HOSA, our chapter members have been able to acquire new skills and build up experiences while giving back to the community through organizations like the Homeless Youth Connections, the Desert Harbor Doberman Rescue, Be the Match, and the Rest Easy Now Equine Rescue, where mature horses are taken for their last moments of life. So one of our committees specifically is the HOSA Activities Committee, and in this committee, the members organize different events for the entire chapter to participate in. For example, HOSA Weeks, that's a full spirit week that we did, and we also got a visit from one of our state officers during that. The Liberty 8th grade partnership, where we got to see 8th graders and possible future HOSA members and educate them on different opportunities that our HOSA chapters offer. The GCU and GCC field trips, where we got to go to those colleges, go to the campuses and see what they have to offer and different things that we could possibly participate in the future. And then the Be the Match service project, which is the service project for the entire HOSA organization, and we put in hours and donations to give to that project.
So HOSA has allowed veterinary science to participate in a number of activities such as the Halloween Carnival, the signature event, NASCAR, World's Finest Chocolate fundraiser, as well as Dog Days of Buckeye. We were also given the privilege of talking to a middle school about HOSA as well as West-MEC in order to achieve our Gold Chapter Award. At Dog Days of Buckeye, we had dogs make little lick paint art, and all the proceeds went to Be the Match.
When I came across this quote, I thought it embodied a very important aspect of HOSA. When you hand good people possibility, they do great things. While strong leadership is a vital part of every HOSA chapter, a HOSA chapter is greatly dependent on what each individual makes of the opportunity. Each member is given a great opportunity through HOSA, and it is up to them whether they chase that opportunity, seize it, and reap its benefits, or shy away. Fear and laziness may be the first instinct. However, with encouragement, care, and education that each of our HOSA officers have been elected to deliver to our HOSA members, all of our chapters have achieved success and seized the opportunity that has been handed to us to the fullest extent.
With sincere gratitude, we thank everyone for their time, and we especially would love to thank Mr. Stredka, the Superintendent Spurgeon, our campus administrators, Dr. Parsons, Mrs. Stroud, and our advisors, Mr. Rice and Ms. Fleming, for this fun opportunity.
Thank you. I will throw it open to questions. Ms. Wiley?
Fabulous job. I don't care which one of you answer. How did you find out about all of this?
I found out about it all through West-MEC. I was unaware of it before. I'm homeschooled, so I did not as many opportunities in public school could have enlightened me about it. But on our first orientation of West-MEC for my class, we were told about
How did you
HOSA.
get the first orientation? I mean, how did you find out about West-MEC? Just
My two brothers, they both attended West-MEC before me, so.
all right.
Yes.
Were they homeschooled as well?
Yes.
So I guess Ms. Wiley's question is, how did your parents initially first find out about West-MEC? Do you know?
We live very close to the Southwest campus, so we will very often drive past it.
Are you in Colorado?
Yes.
And anybody else? Somebody else, Sherry?
I guess I can go. My family has been very involved in West-MEC ever since I was younger, so I've always kind of known that I was going to go to West-MEC. And I've always known since I was probably like 10 that I was going to be a physical therapist. So hearing that West-MEC had that physical therapy program and the different things that they had to offer really just made me want to pursue that and go into West-MEC as soon as I could.
And these leadership programs?
So HOSA specifically, I've been involved in since I was a freshman at Verrado High School, but I didn't really get involved until last year and then this year especially, so.
Great. Thank you.
As I've said so many times, we're in good shape for the future with young folks like you. You presented yourself so well, so professionally dressed, professionally. You put forth the kinds of things we love hearing. We sit up here and we make decisions, but to know that it's appreciated, being used, when I saw the list of things you do, my gosh, that's wonderful. You do something besides go to school and look at your phone. Thanks for being with us tonight.
That was good, Jim.
That's great.
Very well done. Anybody else?
It's just wonderful seeing young people like you and just the motivation and drive that you have, and you're going places. It's why we do what we do, you know, and West-MEC is just a wonderful opportunity. God bless all of you.
Good luck to you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Go, one more question.
The young lady on the end, was your grandma a board member? She was. Okay, I thought Janine? you tell her I said hi and thank her for her contributions to West-MEC. Thanks.
Thanks. Thank you. Great job. Thank you. All right. Miss Sparantacles. Early college opportunities.
Good evening, governing board members, Superintendent Dr. Spurgeon, West-MEC colleagues and guests. I'm honored to be here this evening and give you an update on West-MEC early college opportunities. Before I start my presentation, I would like to let you all know that this week is National School Counseling Week. As one of the 9 West-MEC counselors, it is my honor to recognize our district's school counseling program and everything that we collectively do to contribute to the success of our students. Through our counseling curriculum delivered to all of our students in over 500 classroom visits. Our team is integral to student enrollment and support through successful program completion. In the time that students spend with us, they encounter various life challenges, and we as counselors are there for them to support them with individual, student, and family needs and interventions to meet their developmental needs. Today's presentation is part of what we do in the academic domain, so I will get started. Part of our early college opportunities is dual enrollment, and what this means is that students are earning college credits for West-MEC courses when the instructors meet college qualifications. Here is a snapshot of dual enrollment. We have 25 West-MEC instructors, 9 programs, 361 students who are participating, which translates into a percentage of 36%. Again, behind this snapshot is a lot of work. The work of counselors, staff, certainly the instructors, and everyone. Families do pay tuition. We at West-MEC offer a robust grant program. We have administered in student services a total of over $43,000 in registration and dual enrollment grants. Here are our programs that offer dual enrollment. You have a very detailed report in your board book about our data. We have a steady enrollment at 36% of our students. Our participation fluctuates a little bit in students when we have teacher turnover, as well as when we have had to close programs, unfortunately. Another area of early college participation is our concurrent enrollment. That is when we as West-MEC have chosen to participate with colleges to offer certain programs inside Maricopa colleges. In this case, students do not pay tuition. So we have a program in culinary arts where students earn 17 college credits, a certificate of completion called CCL at Estrella Mountain Community College, and we have 20 students in that program. If you are wondering about this particular number of students, this is dictated by the size of the kitchen at the college. So we could not have more students, although a lot of students are on the waiting list for that particular program. It is very popular. Fire science, again, the students are earning 14 college credits, held at GCC for 48 students. EMT, now you can see that we have a lot more students in EMT, 96, and that is again because EMT is not offered in our member schools, so therefore we offer more sections to meet that need, and also it's a healthcare need in the community. So I'm going to stop here for a minute to, again, give you a chance to meet a program completer. So we have Daylin here tonight. So Daylin has completed both fire science and EMT, and she is here to tell you a little bit about her experience and where she is today.
she completed last year.
Good evening, governing board members, Dr. Spurgeon, and other guests. Thank you for having me speak here tonight. My name is Dalen Johansson, and I completed 2 West-MEC programs, as Ms. Ferranta said. Fire Science and Emergency Medical Technician in 2022, excuse me. At 16, like most other kids my age, I really had no direction in what I wanted to do. I didn't even know if I wanted to pursue a college degree in the first place. As a homeschooled student also, my options seemed even more obscure. However, one of my friends, who was also homeschooled, was super passionate about your precision machining program and highly recommended West-MEC for all their programs for me to look into. He actually now works for a machining company outside of Sky Harbor Airport. So I applied for the fire science and then EMT. Through these programs, I earned 26 college credits, a wildland firefighting certificate, a hazmat awareness and operations certificate, a CPR certificate, and course competency as an EMT, which allowed me to continue to complete my certification testing and Arizona EMT licensure. Having access to a college-level class as a high school junior and learning how college classes operate gave me the confidence to get a head start on core classes, such as English 101. I was also invited to join Phi Theta Kappa, which is an honor society, after taking fire science due to my 4.0 GPA. The college credits I acquired through the programs fulfill most, if not all, of my elective college credits in my current degree path as well. Now, I'm a full-time honors scholar at Glendale Community College on the Presidential Scholarship, a merit-based scholarship that is currently valued at a little less than $1,300. Thanks to West-MEC's relationship with NAU's 90/30 program, I'm also pursuing the 90/30 bachelor's degree in applied behavioral science. I'm also using my EMT certification as an EMT lab technician for Gateway Community College, specifically as a lab technician for NAU's location of West-MEC's EMT class. Through this position, I have the opportunity to share my experiences that I had through the same class and support their learning. I'm proud to be an example that working with the EMT certification while pursuing further education is not only attainable, but is also sustainable. Before I wrap up, I would like to extend my gratitude to all of the outstanding individuals that made my experience with West-MEC possible, but especially to Chief Sean Stumbaugh, Paramedic Jesse Disqua, and, of course, Ms. Ferranta Cleese. They each supported me in different ways. Chief Stumbaugh unveiled the fascinating world of emergency services and nurtured my curiosity throughout fire science. Mrs. Cleese has always encouraged my determination and commended my successes, and kindly invited me to speak here with all of you tonight. Paramedic Disqua is the one I have to thank for the opportunity to work for Gateway, as she recommended me from her West-MEC EMT class and taught me all the skills I needed for that position. West-MEC not only opened my eyes to my potential, but also gave me the skills to take control of my academic president and the confidence to pursue the career of my future. Thank you.
Thank you, Dalen. We were talking earlier about the work of counselors and what a perfect example of the why of our work, just like you said, Mrs. Wiley, and it's all about the success of our students. So one more aspect of our pathways has to do with articulated credits. Students can earn college credits upon completing certain programs and being accepted and enrolling in specific college programs. So I'll tell you more specifically what this means. For example, we have an agreement with Piedmont Medical Institute. So our veterinary sciences students can earn 30 college credits towards their vet technician associate degree if they leave us and then if they're enrolled in this particular degree. So since we have begun this agreement in 2021, so just a short while ago, 17 of our students are participating. So that means they are saving 1 year of study in order for them to get an associate degree. Additionally, through this partnership, PMI, Pima Medical Institute, offers us an advisor, a college advisor that works specifically with our students and assists them with this transition. PLA, Prior Learning Assessment, is very similar. Students can earn college credits when they complete certain West-MEC programs and industry credentials. This is excellent because this also touches upon our adult programs, because those adults also earn those industry credentials. So, for example, here's an example for you. When a student completes aviation maintenance and the FFA certification, that equals 50 college credits. I'm gonna let you take that in. 50 college credits, that's excellent. And this is through the Eastern New Mexico University, and it goes towards aviation science. So all that the students then have to complete in order to earn a degree are 5 classes that are online. So they don't have to go to New Mexico, they just have to take these online classes that have to do with basic communication class, English, math, psychology, and humanities. And many of our students, well, not many, a few of our students, it's hard to do everything at once, but a few of our students even do it while they're still in high school. So when they cross that graduation stage, they can have a high school diploma, aviation, FFA, and an associate degree all at the same time. But they can also do it afterwards, because 5 college classes online, it's really not that difficult to do for some of our very ambitious students. Another prior learning assessment is our beauty and wellness programs. So again, those certifications are worth 12 college credits for aesthetics and 19 for hairstyling. What great news. We are seeing increased growth in these PLAs because colleges are now valuing these industry certifications, as well as employers are pushing for their employees to grow from entry level to mid-level and professional careers. So there's going to be growth in these opportunities. Our advocacy is to have more embedded advisors from Maricopa colleges in order for our students to receive that help in navigating systems. We're also seeing that Maricopa colleges do offer these embedded advisors in other schools, and they are reporting growth in their programs, so we want the same for West-MEC. With this, I just want to thank everyone, governing board, West-MEC instructors, again, counselors, leadership, and everyone who is working to provide these wonderful opportunities for students. Any questions?
Fantastic.
Just have one comment, Mr. Strickland. Talk a little bit more, Esperanto, about why it's important for those advisors to be embedded within our organization and how the systems don't talk to one another and how sometimes that's a barrier for continued enrollment or initial enrollment for some of our students.
Thank you for this comment, Dr. Spurgeon. So, as you know, our students attend their home high school during the day, and then they come to us, after their school day. So during the day, they could be with a participating college. So say, for example, they could be with Rio Salado, oftentimes in their district, and then they come to us, and we are participating with Glendale College, let's say. And those 2 colleges just are not in alignment with one another, and our students and our families and our counselors have a very hard time navigating those systems. It's not one Maricopa Community College system. They are, in fact, separate entities, and they're very difficult to navigate. So this is why when you have an embedded advisor, someone that's able to navigate those systems, it can really help our students put all of those college credits together, from the academic core that the students take academically at high school to the occupational credits that we offer at West-MEC, to enable them to complete their degrees and to navigate. So thank you for that question. It's a very important advocacy item for us.
So to coordinate it is
Yes.
really tough.
Yes, yes it is.
And what is your goals now?
The goal?
The speaker.
Oh.
The young lady.
Yes.
David. I don't want to know where you're going from here.
Yes.
Where I'm going from here, I am planning on finishing my associate's degree through GCC and then eventually pursuing my bachelor's through the 90/30 program through NAU. And then I eventually plan on doing my master's in behavioral science as well through NAU.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for that presentation.
Hi, Dalian. This is Juan. I have a comment and a question. But first off, I just want to say congratulations. Wow, I'm very impressed by your accomplishments at your age. My goodness, 2 licensures are very important, very marketable skills, and very smart of you to do too. Because not only did you basically saved a year in college. That's a lot of time, and I mean it goes by fast, but it's time that you can invest in other endeavors or building other skills. But you've gained some marketable skills upon which to build a bright career, and at your age, I'm very very impressed. And my question for you is, I think if I remember correctly, you found out about West-MEC through a friend of yours that was in the machining program. You've had great success with CTE. Uh, have you shared your CTE experience with other friends and family? Have other
Yes.
friends and family also applied?
Yes, I have. I also participated on an archery team throughout my high school experience, and I shared my CTE program with many of my other fellow archers. And currently now in one of the classes that I currently assist teaching in as a technician, one of my former archers' younger siblings is a student now.
Awesome.
What an
Thank
awesome
you.
young lady. You're just super.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anything else from the board? Thank you for sharing your story. It's,
Thank
it's
you.
incredible. Thank you
for
very
having me.
much.
Thanks, Brianna.
And thank you, Speranto, for bringing us such a great story. Need my glasses to see. Ms. Rockwell, RFP proposal.
Good evening, how's everyone doing? So the district, in conjunction with Mr. Welch, is asking for the governing board to approve the process to solicit architects for future tenants and construction for all of the campuses, actually. And so we just wanted to bring this to you because it is on the architectural level.
Now, what kind of a company does this?
So there's all kinds of architect firms that are out there.
It's
to just
architectural firms that
Right,
do it.
right, to draw plans for, and you've got residential and commercial.
DLR, and I think there's a couple of them that have done stuff for us.
SPS Plus, Barcone. There are a number of companies that can provide that service, and it's a quotation. And they provide qualifications, and we select based on qualifications.
What
And
is,
we've used some of them.
Yes. And really, this would just be the starting point of, you know, if we wanted to build this type of a thing at one of the campuses, is that feasible? What would it look like that would need to be done to move with expanding EV or something of that nature?
and what is the budget for all of those expansions?
Well, so that's the piece that going out for this architect to see, because prices keep changing constantly, to see what is it going to take, you know, you start with, here's my big dream, now what becomes my reality, because you have to scale it down.
Big dream with all the campuses, and then we.
Right.
And would we do one contractor for all campuses, or would we select multiple?
It could be either
So
or.
the goal is to have it be to have the option of a multi-award.
Yeah, in fact, we're gonna open it up wide.
Right.
Whereas before, we've used some similar folks, it's not just gonna be kind of a, since we use them, we're gonna use them again. Since me being new, I just wanna open it up to everyone to give everybody.
That way they
They
can
have
use.
questions on this. You're better at this than I am.
Well, I don't need to be better, but they can use sharper pencils if they know you might get it or you might get it. And, you know, we'll welcome sharp pencils, but qualified, very well qualified. People that have done the kind of work that we need to have done. It's different to remodel this room or a section than it is to build a new school out at where the Taiwanese factory is. It's two different things. Pardon?
We need some land first.
Yeah, well, I think I saw a thing going around, we need to have that discussion in the future, because I'm gonna predict that land's not gonna go down as much as they say on Channel 12.
It's going up. I've seen lots up in New River going for 200,000 an acre,
Oh, yeah.
which is, they were 125 a year ago.
And I believe you were here, Barbara, but you might have not been here, but when we've had presentations, 100,000 homes from I-17 around the 303 to Bell Road. Do you know how many kids that is? A lot. I mean, we need to look at up north, PV area. We need to look at Vistancia. We probably, and I'm not, it might be somewhere other than that, but that area, Natterburg, further on out, the south, that Verrado area, just gonna keep exploding. And if we continue to do the kinds of things we're capable of, we can give the kids an opportunity that not just, they can partake in that boom. Those homes gotta be built, they gotta be plumbed, they gotta be heated, they gotta be roofed. And we have an outstanding opportunity to do that. So, yeah, I like the way you put it together, I like the way you brought it to the board. Multiple, that goes along my thinking, you know.
Yeah, like
keep
the
those pencils sharp, because if you don't do it, maybe she would do it at 5.5 instead of 6%. Is that the going rate about now?
I hear 6% is the going rate.
Not if you got a lot of work. Yeah, that's pretty common.
The other challenge I would love to see us somehow address as part of this is, and Arizona's unique because we have a lower property tax rate. And so seniors stay in their homes longer. So all of a sudden, there's obsolete schools in the inner cities because families have to move to the outskirts because people aren't moving out of their houses. How do we fit that into our model in our planning? Because we can't just keep getting bigger and bigger. Somehow there has to be families coming back to the more general population.
And we have people on our staff here who have worked with many of the various architects in Arizona, which can bring in expertise. Because it's not just the design, it's just not fitting the programs, it's not just fitting the community, but can they get the damn paperwork in right? And can they get it correct? And can they get it in on time? Those are all important. Those all being important to Ms. Rockwell's team. It's important that we pay them on time, conversely. But there's a whole lot to it other than let's copy Verrado or let's copy Surprise or Northwest.
Yeah, there's a car wash at 19th Avenue in Dove Valley. They finished it last April. It's not open because they haven't been able to, they never filled out the right permits for water usage with the city of Phoenix, and the city is not letting them open it, and it's been almost a year.
I still want to know where they're going to get the water, but probably a pretty good question.
Anyway, we need to have a conversation with Mayor Beck in that very area that you just spoke about, and there could be some plans there in the future.
When I've asked that question, what I've been astonished by, today we're finding out a way to recycle every drop of liquid that's out there. And that's part of their answer. Recycle, recycle, and recycle. I was astounded. I asked some of the questions I don't want to bring up tonight, but they do recycle.
All right.
I move we approve to go out for a, or
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Moved by Mr. Miglarino, seconded by Ms. Wiley. Any further discussion? On the phone, any questions? You guys have been quiet. No questions? I'll call for the question. All in favor, say aye or a thumbs up online. Aye.
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 All right. Any opposed? All right. Thank you. Employee contracts. Do we know where our attorney is?
She's probably still 30 minutes out. But we can start and go through. She said she would text me, so she said,
Well,
oh,
can we move some stuff around, or
there's
not much left to move around, is there? Okay, well, let's,
I looked at it, I saw the things in there that we were concerned about. For instance, if the state makes a change, we can make a change. That it is determined when they sign it. They need to get them signed. So I think all the things I remember the board looking at were there. Now, if some of you have a question about a specific item, my guess is Dr. Herb can answer it.
Okay, well,
And he's probably less than the attorney.
Vice Chair Straka, members of the governing board. I got 3 slides that I want to summarize for you. This came from a previous meeting when we had discussion and the board said, what do we do with attorneys and attorneys? What do we do with contracts and what do they look like? Our former contract was 1 page. It wasn't as comprehensive as what you see tonight because all 5 of these contracts used to be one, and each one of these different areas of employees have a new contract, a potential new contract. So let me walk through before.
and this is for the, starting July 1st.
This will be a July 1st, 2023 contract.
Or, Mr. Strecky, anyone hired on or before that, but it would be effective starting in 2023, 24. Yes, sir.
So this is a summary of some of the new language that's in 4 of the 5 contracts. Our hourly one does not contain all of this because they're not certificated employees. But there's a comment, a paragraph in there. Additional revenues become available through legislative appropriations. Salaries can be increased as determined by the governing board. It all comes back to the governing board. That's one of the traditional that neighboring school districts have had in their contract. I shared with Dr. Spurgeon this week. One of the employees shared with me, and we did it and shared it in leadership this week, that the neighboring district gave their employees a $7,000 increase because they had this statement in their contract. This is the 3rd year that they've given increases. Last year it was $7,000. For the hourly, it's $3 and some cents for all the hourly. Because they had this in there and they had additional revenue, they were able to vote, the governing board, to increase the salaries immediately for employees. We did not have that in there, so that's why we had discussion about receiving a retention stipend, but also the resolution that we've had previous discussion on. So that's the one that's going to be in our language. It's up to the board and the superintendent to bring recommendations forward on a yearly basis, bi-yearly basis, or if we get increased funding from the legislature or from other sources. The staff that may receive this retention stipend is approved by the governing board, and I know that's some discussion in the future. Employee salaries can be modified if revenue sources are not funded. That was in our previous one, where if districts did not receive enough funds from the legislature, they could reduce funding throughout the school district. Employee performance pay for staff that qualify, paid from 301 funds. We do have that also in the administrator. Presently, we don't have administrators' performance pay. A lot of districts do have performance pay for administrators, so we included it in the administrator and in the instructors, and we also have it in the counselors, because the counselors now can receive funding and performance pay through 301. So that's a general statement that wasn't in our previous contracts. Contracts need to be returned within 15 days. In our former one, right at the bottom, we had them returning within 5 days because we wanted to get the process, we wanted to get contracts out, and we wanted to know who was coming back. Statutorily, it's 15. In the earlier ones you received, it was 30 for administrators and instructors, so we've condensed it all to 15. So whether you're instructor and hourly, we want them back within 15 days once we issue them to employees. Less than 12-month employees, this is another one we've never done before, can elect to be paid over a 12 months. So they can get their salaries annualized over a 12-month period. Before that time, we would pay them over 23, 24 pays. We had employees that requested to be paid through the year. They'll get a little less each paycheck, but they get one every 2 weeks. So that's another one, a new one that's in our contracts. If contracts are not accurate, employee has a 30-day to notify West-MEC's administration. After the 30 days, they don't have a right to come and complain or appeal or grieve. They have to notify us within the 30 days. We never had that in our previous. It's kind of a standard one that other districts had. Employees need to maintain certification if required for their position. It's another one that's in there. Also states that if they lose their certification, we don't have to pay them, but we could pay them as a substitute. Our instructors need to have the certification in the classroom, because if they do not, then we don't get ADM. We can't be paid because we have a non-certified person in that classroom. Employees, we've done this for the last 5 to 9 years. They have to pass a background check and a fingerprint clearance. That's in the contract. It says if they don't, then the contract becomes invalid. Employees need to report any citation or arrest to the district administration. That was a policy that we developed in the last 3 or 4 months. The one in policy is all citations or arrests. The one that traditionally has been in the contracts is those that are non-appealable offenses. And those are like incest, child abuse, and things. There's a whole list of about 20 or 30. So in our policy, we increased it. The board approved it for any citation and the arrest. They have to report it to Human Resources or to the superintendent. Employees fail to report West-MEC for work. Employees will be required to pay liquidated damages. We've never had a liquidated damage clause in ours. Most districts do. The board does have a right to waive that liquidated damages, especially if that instructor's moving out of state and their husband is relocating. You bring it to the board. In some districts, the board will not charge the liquidated damages. So that's traditionally in contracts, the dollar amount is different. Employees with a certificate resigns without advanced governing board approval can report it to the state board. So there are districts where teachers get up and walk out or say it's too hard for me, and they just leave their keys. We had an example I shared with Dr. Spurgeon at the Northwest campus. We had hired a medical assisting instructor. She had conversation that day with me and with the building principal. At the end of the day, she wrote a note out, laid it on the principal's desk with her keys and said, "I'm done today, I can't do this, it's too hard." We didn't go after her certificate, we didn't have it in but I'm sure she wasn't gonna go back into teaching because she found out that teaching was too difficult. But some districts have it in there and they will turn over to the ADE to go through the review process to see if that former employee or that person should have their certificate revoked. So that's in ours, the new ones. I think there's a couple more here and we'll be done and we can open up. I think that's it. So that's some of the new language that can be included. Knowing that we have 5 to kind of look through or go through, and I know some of you may have questions. And if Susan gets here, the board attorney gets here, then she can answer maybe some of the legal questions that are there. But if you want to start with the administrator's contract, I believe there's 5 pages in there, and I know I got a couple comments earlier. Maybe we should take that off or leave that on, especially the stipend part of it. But I'm open to feedback from the governing board. I'll take notes on each of these and for clarification. And if we're not ready to consider tonight and vote on these 5, then we can bring them back at the next meeting. So with that, Chairman or Vice Chair Strake, I turn it back to you to go through with administrator contract, and we'll go through them sequentially or however your board wants to do it.
Okay, let's start with the administrator, but Mr. Miglerino has some questions. So
well, I would refer to all of 2 questions. First of all, can I assume these were prepared by our attorneys and their staff?
Yes.
Second question is, have they had experience in preparing contracts similar for other districts, and have there been any problems with those?
Okay, they have prepared numerous because they represent numerous districts in the state of Arizona. I do not know, and we'd have to ask Susan, have they had any difficulties or any problems? I don't believe personally that she would prepare this for us and ask us to recommend to the board that language may be questioned or may not be appropriate and may not be legal. So I think she would say the language that's in here is appropriate for K-12 school districts in the state of Arizona.
Is she still gonna be here tonight?
She's supposed to be here. She's coming. She had a meeting with all FRIA with their board. And she had to meet with them. She
Well,
said,
okay, perhaps if she is able to attend, we could ask her if there have been any problems regarding any of the contracts.
This is all new, correct?
It's all
We're going from one page to five.
All new.
Right, so the old ones, how many years did you use the old ones?
the old ones have been used since I started.
Okay.
We
So
had a
this
few
is a
minor
whole new-
revisions.
Okay, we need to grow up and do
Yes.
bigger and better.
So what happened was last
I remember
last
asking questions.
December, when some proposals came from the administration, we found out our contracts prevented us from doing what administration was wanting to do. And when I was talking to Susan as board chairman, I'm like, Susan, we really probably, she said, I never have reviewed your contracts. I'm like, we probably should review the contracts because it's been
Yeah,
years.
right.
And this is a good time to do it because no time like the present. Did you, questions? I have some questions, but I'm gonna go last.
I think it's really well articulated and, pretty much, but I do have a question on this, the valid fingerprint clearance card.
What number?
That was number 2. And I noticed it was on some of the other contracts as well.
Are you asking what that is?
Mm-hmm.
Every employee that worked, like when I first came in, you have to go online, you have to fill out this form, and then they do a background check, major background check. And every person that works in the school district actually have to have that card in order to be able to go to work.
Okay.
It's a requirement.
And this is what it looks like, because I have to have one too. It just says that your fingerprints have been cleared by DPS.
Okay, okay.
And it is a requirement, and if they lose that, they cannot be in the classroom, and we get notifications, and I am surprised on a weekly basis how many fingerprint cards are revoked by DPS.
And not like lost that you can't find it, but lost because of some particular reason that could be legal.
It's a drunk driving charge, you could lose your fingerprint card, and
So you'd know right away if something was happening.
If they notify us, and they typically do.
And it's pretty quick, I'd say within a day or two.
Okay.
I
But
think
with the policy also, with them getting a citation, or if it's removed, they need to notify us as well as DPS notify us.
And then,
oh, go ahead.
okay, the other thing too is, on number 4, with the retention stipend. I don't know if we can move forward with approving the contract when we haven't even discussed, and approved the retention stipend.
This would, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, this would have to be in the contract for us to consider a retention bonus. If we don't put it in the contract, then we can't vote on a retention bonus. That's why we could not adjust employees' salary in December, is it wasn't in our contract, even though the legislature approved things. We couldn't do it because our contracts were one page and out of date.
So if we approve this, then we would definitely, we would be approving the retention stipend.
No, we wouldn't. It allows us to provide a retention in the future.
If
It doesn't
we
say
wish.
we have to.
Yeah.
It just says we could. But if we don't put it in the contract, then we couldn't consider it. It's just like it's like you have to lay the groundwork before you can do something. And so this is laying some of the groundwork to give the board some flexibility on contracts. Did I say that right?
Okay.
Yes, that's my understanding too, that it's not obligated, it's just allows for consideration by the board and approval by the board.
That's correct.
So at any point in the future, if we wanted to postpone it or do it now or whatever, it would cover everything.
Or if you wanted to do it in a future year.
Yeah, okay.
It doesn't say the board has to, but if it's not in there, then the board cannot.
Mr. Ramirez, as an attorney, I think we would look to you to give us some thoughts on these contracts. Not to put you on the spot, but I'm going to.
No, it looks okay to me,
Paragraph
but I also
four,
don't want to step on
sentence five.
Susan's toes.
She's not here, so if you have some comments, we'll.
I have a couple
Yeah.
of do you have, Mr. Ramirez, thoughts?
No, no, it looks okay to me.
I didn't see it, and maybe I missed it, but we did talk about the procedures of if you're arrested or anything, but is there a generic paragraph that says you need to follow all the policies and procedures that have been approved by the governing board?
It's in, there's a comment, I don't know what's right at the end, that they have to follow all policies of West-MEC's governing board.
Even though we don't spell them out, they
Even though they
know
don't
it by
spell them out,
osmosis.
they points to them. Yeah.
And then the other thing is going back to the signing bonus and stuff, if we put conditions around the signing bonus and pay it, as an example, we pay it June 30th, they sign, they don't show up, is there wording in here that we're allowed to take back their signing bonus because they didn't fulfill their contract?
It's in, I believe it's in the resolution that the board will be reviewing.
But shouldn't it be in the contract as well?
Okay, I will ask that question.
And then next year is leap year. This is more of a clerical thing, but I see days 261. Next year there's 366 days, taking out 104 for weekends. That gives us 262 working days. Should this be 262 instead of 261?
If, I will check with that. If that's the work year, traditionally it's 261. So if it is the leap year and we're gonna lose some, we can modify that. These would be for each year, they've changed.
Right, so every fourth year it'd be 262, or do we just give everybody a day off somewhere? On the administrator contract, the employee quality of life stipend doesn't have the double asterisk that says not all eligible, not all employees are eligible, but in other contracts, it did have that.
You mean at the top of the?
Yeah, at the top.
Yeah.
Which number?
So it's right here on it's on page 1, agenda information, stipend, employees quality of life stipend. It says the other one says not eligible, but it's all based on their hire date. And then so this is the other one, and Jack, I kind of asked you this earlier. The administrator, there's like this 5% reduction if the funds aren't available. But for non-administrators, if the funds aren't available, it could go beyond 5% pay reduction. I don't understand why we're covering administrators not to lose more than 5%, but a teacher, if there's not funding, could lose 20% of their salary. I would think we would want to treat everybody the same. It's either 5% for everybody, or, if we have to make a cut, it should be the cut across the board. Let's see. How does this work we have some 0.49, 0.98 positions. If we have somebody working 2.49 positions, are they under one contract, two contracts? What does that look like?
They're working under, and they're both, would make them a full-time employee. They qualify for benefits because we wouldn't have 249s and 249s. We would make them a 0.98 for the hours they were working, and they qualify for benefits after 20 hours of work. We would pay them as an hourly employee or as a prorated for the 0.98.
And you would blend the two jobs. On the 11-month contract, 243 days, I was just trying to figure out, that seems like it's more like 11 and a quarter months. Is that just the math I was doing, or is that just what we do?
That's what our instructors, we increased their days we get in June, and so it's 243 days, and when we do the calendar, we could adjust it again a day or two if they're, every year they're not 243. But they go into June now and work to about the 21st, 22nd. So we call them 11-month employees. They get about 3 weeks and a couple days off.
And then on the hourly work agreement, the stipend, it says not, the stipend, employee stipend, not all employees are eligible, but it should say quality of life, it's just missing that part. And then I have a question on hourly and carrying a cell phone. We've had this discussion before. I believe there's court precedence. If you have an hourly employee carry a cell phone, there's an intent to pay. And we would be obligated to pay them for the 128 hours that they carried a cell phone that they weren't paid if they filed a complaint. And they could go back for 2 years of statute of limitations. My recommendation is hourly employees, we should not collect their cell phone. Leaders should not call an hourly employee on their cell phone, and we should not pay them a stipend because they're paid hourly and not, we don't want to expose ourselves. I know the state of Arizona paid a lot of money out for a similar thing when people carried a beeper. So
I will check with our legal
Attorney.
counsel because I believe they've been asked that question before and they didn't say that it was illegal, but I will ask the question.
well, it's not illegal, but we're exposed. I would prefer not to have that exposure if we could avoid it.
I will ask that question.
And I think that was all I had. And on the 11th month, we would also adjust the leap year.
Correct.
Those are all the questions I have for Susan. Anyone else?
Can I ask a question about your question?
Sure.
The hourly cell phone issue. Well, we might, and I'm just trying to think of the whole here. We may have part-time custodial people that might be working a building. And they live maybe 3 doors down. And the director or the supervisor is ill on vacation, and we need to call them. How do you cover that?
How do we do it? I'm just saying, there is an exposure.
I'm not saying there's not an exposure. I'm just saying, you know, I just put it out,
Then maybe
not
we
everything is solvable.
Yeah, but we need to do something that limits our exposure. I know when I worked for the state of Arizona, they settled millions of dollars for employees for just carrying a beeper on a weekend. So there's,
I just hate to see common sense thrown out for stuff like this sometimes. That's just one board member's opinion.
Okay, Chairman Stricker, can I just test the waters and the feedback? I wrote down the things that you have to follow up with legal counsel, but I want to go through these again. Board okay with appropriation of salary increases if it's determined by the governing board to leave it in our contracts? Okay.
so I guess here would be my question, and maybe this is more of a legal counsel one. We always do raises in March. The legislature doesn't approve the budget till June. So almost are we setting up, should we not do raises in March until we know what the budget is? Because then we come back and say, oh, you know what? We didn't project the right amount. It was, we gave everyone, we expected an 8%, and the legislature gave us 7%, and we can cover it, but how do other districts address that?
Okay, if you're asking me a recommendation, I wouldn't wait till June to do salary considerations and
Right,
even
but
in the
how
budget.
do you work around the legislature and if funds become available because?
Because you have reserves, or you leave that language in there that gives you an opportunity to make an adjustment in April, whenever you do make it. And if the percentage and you want it to increase because you have a larger allocation in June, then you have the authority to come back, because you didn't know that the legislators were gonna approve that allocation, and you approve it for the following year. So that's why I'm asking if you wanna keep the language in there. It's beneficial to give it, because it's the superintendent's prerogative to bring the recommendation forward, and then for the board to say yes. So that would be my answer or response. Other districts, most districts have it in there if there's additional revenue.
Right, but that's what I'm trying to understand. If the board assumed that there was gonna be an 8% raise, they made an 8% raise, and then it's still done, because the way it was explained to me is if you do a raise in March and the legislature signs the budget in June, you can do another raise after June because that's when the legislature voted. So what precludes from, because I don't want to, like, if we do a raise in March, the staff should be able to budget and plan for it, and I hate to be dependent on the legislature.
Okay, so I'll ask Tracy, do you know of any districts that wait till June to do that?
Well, I'm not saying wait till June, but it's like, how do you prepare for it? How do you prepare for the I'm gonna make an assumption that the legislature's gonna do their job, we're gonna make the best projection, and we're gonna run with it, we have reserves, so just, that's it. So how do districts, we have reserves, all the other districts don't, so how do they get around that to make sure that they don't say, hey, we're gonna give you 5%, oh, the legislature disappointed us, sorry, no raise.
Right, so most of the other districts, and I've been with a district when that has been the situation, and the updated language to this contract would keep the district in a place where they could be fiscally responsible, and if they offer 5% raise and the legislature actually withdraws money, you have the ability to pull back based on the language on the updated contracts. The language that you have currently doesn't allow for that. You're stuck with those contracts.
But see, I still think that if we do 5%, we should, yeah, so.
But the other piece too, if you don't mind, is with the budgeting that the district has right now and the excess, the reserves, you have the flexibility that even if it is the 5%, you're still covered even if the legislature says no in June and keeps everything flat.
Yeah.
You still have that coverage for the 5%, right, that would have been allowable in January as well too.
And you're only talking about you.
Because if we say 5% in March, they should be able to say, I'm gonna get 5% and not be dependent on the legislature. That's
And
the thing I
that
just
goes
wanna.
into doing your projections with your student enrollment and having good contracts with your vendors that are out there and being prudent with your dollars, which is what everyone with the district is working very hard to get to.
Okay. Okay. Can we keep talking or do you want? Go ahead. So a thumbs up, but we need Susan here for a final. Well, keep going through the list.
That's if you want me to make the changes, so we're gonna have to go back and discuss it. Performance pay for all staff, is that okay with everyone? The only one that it's in now is, that wasn't receiving it was with the administrators or with principals.
So what constitutes performance pay? Because I'm used to a very different performance pay, I think.
It would be up to us to bring to you a recommendation for the building principals to receive performance pay for administrators. We wouldn't just say we're gonna pay them for performance pay without bringing it to the board.
I think administrators are paid well, more than the rest of the staff. I would feel that performance pay might be insulting to classified staff. Because classified staff isn't eligible for performance pay.
Currently correct.
And why not?
Performance pays performance pay. There's nothing wrong, yeah.
Well, I'm asking why are some people not
Because it's
eligible for?
Prop 301 money,
Correct.
Okay.
so only certain people are allowed.
So instructors can receive it, we have our counselors that are receiving it, and our career coaches. Those are the three categories. it's in the administrative, just if the board wanted to, it would not come from 301.
So anything from Prop 301, it all has to be the same no matter what.
Well, Prop 301 is limited
Cannot
to a
be.
certain
Well,
group.
yeah,
Yes.
but every person that works or is paid from those funds has to be the same amount.
No.
No, okay.
It's based on performance.
It's based on the 301 plan that Mr. Welch provided and went through, because we changed some of the allocations in the board meeting last month, Stephen, or before?
December?
We just revised it.
Yeah, January.
Okay, so the dollar amounts are all in there. Instructors can earn up to $3,000, and then if they work work-based learning and do the CTSO, the dollar amounts are all in there. For the counselors, the dollar amounts are all in there. The hourly that we pay them for curriculum development is all in that 301 plan, and it comes to the board on a yearly basis.
And just as a quick point, so like last year, we had that spread of where we had teachers from 48% earned 48% of what was possible to 100%. So there was a wide spread. Not everyone got the same amount. One teacher got 48%. We had several that got in the 60 percentiles, up through 90%, and then we had several that got 100% as well. But there is a nice distribution currently of what people are earning.
Okay, contracts need to be returned within 15 days. Is that okay with the board?
I'm fine with that. Could we do a contract signing bonus where we say 5 days? And then
The
that would
board's
get it to you
recommendation,
quicker.
and if you want to add
But
that
I mean,
in.
that's something I guess the board could do when we get to that discussion.
Okay, less than 12 months can elect to be paid. That's a statutory IRS, so we're gonna keep that in there. 30 days is statutorily too. Employees need to maintain certification. That's a requirement that needs to be in there. Background check is a requirement that needs to be in there. Citations need to be in there. The next one, if they fail to report after they're signing their contract, do we feel comfortable, or you as a board feel comfortable with the $2,500 for liquidated damages? I know administration had a discussion, we haven't had it in there, but we were supportive, especially with the challenges with finding teachers that get up and just walk out.
So how do you collect that? I don't want to spend $5,000. I don't want to spend $5,000 in court to get $2,500.
Well, we have 3 employees here that I know that the districts they came from had to pay it, and it came out of their last check, or they had to return it before they came to work here.
So
I guess worst comes to worst, we could turn it over to a collection agency to try and collect it.
okay.
Employees with a certificate resigns. Some districts turn it over to the Department of Education to do a follow-up with those employees to see if they lose their certificate. Do we want to keep it in or take it out?
And you said other districts do that?
Yes.
I would keep it in.
Keep it in?
Okay, and those are the ones. So I have the notes and questions that you ask. I don't know if Susan's gonna make it, but she's on her way, I think. Let me check.
She's in Flagstaff.
No, she's in Alfred. Oh,
Last month she came from Flagstaff.
so this was for discussion tonight. We can bring it back in the March meeting and make these changes or modifications. Have her be here for any of the final legal changes that are made.
Let's wait and see if she shows up. I mean, there's still time. Why don't we
Do the rest of your agenda.
do the rest of the agenda, continue it, and we could maybe come back to it? Would everybody be okay if we came back to it? If we just kept moving?
That's okay with me.
That's fine.
Then let's keep moving.
Calendar.
All right, calendar events. You see what's on there? ACT National Policy Seminar and Fargo, North Dakota in April. Bring your parka. Also, good luck getting out of the airport on time. You could drive your snowmobile. Future agenda items.
Mr. Vice Chair, I would like to request a special meeting to discuss the salary issue as proposed by the superintendent, to be brought before the board with at least 4 people there, because you have to have a quorum. That way, if 3 people don't want to be on, tell them why they don't want to vote for it, they won't have to be there. And if it can't be held, I would like somebody to have the professionalism to contact me. I'd like to be contacted in person, but they can hide behind text or email and send that also, as soon as possible.
Yeah, I'll pass it on to Dr. Pingarelli. I think he's told you that he was gonna put it on the March agenda.
March agenda. I'm saying I'd like to call a special meeting within the next week or so.
Do we have the salary information? Because I thought that was gonna be a.
It was mailed out. We got it from Dr. Erb.
Okay. Vicky can
This will
work
give
with
you
Dr.
time to figure out why you
Pingarelli?
can't do it.
Dr. Pingarelli to make the call.
That's fine.
Any other agenda items? All right. Any?
You know, do we vote on that to make sure that that's official, that we can do a a meeting real soon about this?
It's, we don't vote on that. It's Dr. Pingarelli.
Well, there are board policies regarding the agenda. All I'm asking is that you follow the board policies. As a board member, I can request that. I've requested it for 3, now we're going on 4 months. To be thwarted, not contacted, and treated unprofessionally.
That, I'm not gonna get into it, but I will defer to Dr. Pingarelli. Any other agenda items?
Can't think
I-
of it at the moment.
This is Robert. I really, so I know I'm new to the board and everything, but I can tell you that this is old business, and I think that, and I understand that March is generally a time frame where we're used to doing this, but it's my understanding and it's my impression that we're there to support the school, not necessarily common practice. So if we have a need with the school's request to get these done, the fact that we did it traditionally at a certain period of time is irrelevant. And I think that we have to, that our purpose is to help the school. So I have to agree. I think this is an urgent matter and it requires special attention. The fact that we haven't talked about it and it's old business and we just keep making it older business, I think it's really unfair to our board member and to the school.
If you would follow up with Dr. Pingarelli. We have, Ms. Siegel has joined us, so I will move back to item number 15. Jack has all the questions.
Okay, first of all, I apologize for being late. I was just at the Agua Fria School Board meeting, so I probably have exceeded every speed limit known to man between, but, and the traffic's bad out there, so I'm ready with the questions.
Okay, so one of them was the retention stipend. We have it in there for our future discussion, and the question came, should we have it in there as we plan for the future discussion on salaries?
I had contemplated a separate document that employees would sign that because the retention stipend has certain conditions, such as if you don't show up for school the right day and you don't stick it out, that you're gonna pay back. I think it would be easier if we have a stipend with that, a stipend agreement in addition to the regular contract. The idea of referencing it was so that the two are kind of interface each other.
So then we would just have wording of the board may approve a stipend addenda to the contract.
Correct.
Does that make sense to everyone?
Okay, another one is if the language that is in there that gives the authority to the governing board, if we receive additional revenues, if we don't have it in there and appropriations came forward, would we be permitted not to give increases? Is it better to have it in or have it out?
I think it's better to have it in, because it says may, and you make the decision at that point. If you don't have any language there and there's appropriations, you are handcuffed and can't do it. And I might add that you all know that our firm represents a lot of school districts. Almost every school district has adopted that, what I call flexibility language.
Yeah, you have to be able to go either way.
Makes sense.
Okay, another question was, is there anything in these contracts that may be different than other districts or would expose West-MEC, or is any of the language not legally defendable?
These, of course, you know that courts can come up with things all the time, and I never say never, but this language is consistent with the language of other school districts.
Another question that was asked, we have in the administrators and in the instructors that if funds aren't available, we would take a certain percent, I think it's 5% from administrators, but in another one it says 10%. Could we make those all equal?
Yes, you can.
Yeah, I think in like the hourly, there is no limit and you can take the full amount back, but administrators, we cap it at 5%. I think if we're gonna take it back, we take it back across the board.
The hourly is a different animal because the hourly is at will, so to speak. There's not a term there. And if you had to furlough people or terminate people or have a layoff, you can do that. But that's why it's not an hourly. But yes, across the board, you probably should have the same.
Should we have contracts for hourly?
You should not. I recommend against it.
What's the letter you put at the top? Letter of?
It's a notice of appointment. It's for those of you in the private sector. You hire an assistant and they have a job until they don't. And your language in your policy does not give hourly employees the same amount of due process rights. The language in the statutes do not give hourly employees the same due process rights. There is a layer of due process that you will have to give in an hourly employee in the event you terminate their contract. But a notice of appointment does not create a contract, and therefore it does not create more due process rights than are required by law.
And we've labeled it a work agreement.
Well, it's a notice of appointment. With no termination date, which means it just rolls, keeps going.
The quality of life was just a clarification on grammar on one of the contracts. Vice Chair Straker brought up to 261 days, 262 with leap years, but that's really us adjusting our calendar and
Yes.
making sure we have the right work days in the calendar.
Okay.
The other contracts need to be returned within 15 days. They were okay with the 15 days.
Yes, the statute requires 15 days return for teachers, but it's gonna be an administrative nightmare if you have 30 days for others. So to be consistent, we made them all 15.
And the question came from Chairman Straka, could we give them a signing bonus if they returned them quicker than that, if the board wanted to do that?
If you wanted to do that, yes, you could.
The 12-month pay they were okay with for 11-month employees. because it's a IRS requirement.
It's the law. I didn't make that one up.
Certification, they need to maintain certification. We explained that it's an instructor, they can't be in the classroom, we won't get ADM for them. It's in there, they have to pass the background check and fingerprint, clearance card, that's required of everybody. The citation and arrest is in our policy, and the one we have in here is for non-appealable offense, but the policy that we wrote earlier that the board adopted was for any issues.
Yes, and back to the fingerprint checks, the fingerprint check is for any employee who interacts with students, with minors. So theoretically, there could be, under the law, an employee who doesn't have to pass a background check because they're never going to interact with students.
But our practice is to do everyone.
Yes, it is, and that's a good practice. You never know what's going to happen.
On liquidated damages, we listed 2,500 because that's what you recommended. What do other districts charge, and what happens if they don't pay the 2,500?
Well, other districts charge anywhere from 2,500 to 5,000. It depends on where they are. For example, I represent the Nogales Unified School District down in Nogales. They have a tough time getting some qualified candidates, and so when somebody quits, particularly the one French teacher in the whole district, they feel more strongly about a higher amount. I think 2,500 is a good consensus amount. The other problem is collecting it. If somebody just says, goodbye, I don't care, catch me if you can, you're going to have that problem, and it'd be better if it was 2,500 because you might be able to withhold part of their check.
Okay, and then another one we have on here, what's your experience with member districts or any districts in the state turning over to ADE, someone that's walked out and going after their certificate?
A lot of districts do that. It didn't used to be that way. I've been doing this type of work for a long time. It didn't used to be that way, but a lot of districts are just plain mad, particularly when you consider the time it takes to fill a hard-to-fill position and the time it takes to, and the money it takes. And what you're doing is you're leaving your kids high and dry. You're cramming them into a classroom. You're making teachers teach in their planning period, and it's a big inconvenience. Now, of course, there are exceptional circumstances, such as mom of a teacher is back in Minnesota and she's gravely ill, and the teacher feels that she has to go care for her. You can waive that provision. It's not that you're hard-hearted, but when somebody just picks up and decides to leave, and you all have been hearing the last 2 meetings at least about competition for your types of instructors with the private sector. And so this discourages, I hope, from walking out overnight.
Okay, Vice Chair Straka, that's what I wrote down, so if the board has any other questions, you can.
So hourly stipend on a phone. It's been my experience when I worked at the state that if you require an hourly employee to carry a cell phone or a beeper, it's an intent to work, and they could be eligible for overtime pay.
Mr. Straka, I think we've gone around this a little bit, but I'd have to look at the Fair Labor Standards Act, but I'm not sure. I think there's an exception on that one. I'll have to get back to you on that one because it's one of those things.
Yeah, could we find out if there's an exception? I'm fine, but I don't want to be paying somebody if they make a claim, because it's roughly over a year. It's 5 years of salary. It'd be a 5-for-1 deal.
Yeah, you want to discourage non-exempt employees from working overtime. And the question is, how do you do that? And I'll get that to you, to the whole board. It will not go to I'll give it to everyone. There are situations where you have custodians or security, they get calls in the middle of the night because a water main's broken or something like that. It happens.
Do we pay people to be on call? How does that work?
We don't pay, if we need and they come in and they work overtime, we would pay them overtime. If they're required and there's an emergency and there's a water break or they have to come in, if they come in on Saturday and Sunday, we would pay them for the overtime. Or if their 8-hour day was done and they had to come back, they would put in their 40 hours, they would be paid overtime for the time.
Just to be on call, unless they're quite required to be on the premises, you don't have to pay them.
Mr. Ramirez, I might ask them if they have any questions, if they're still online.
Mr. Ramirez, Mr. Garcia, any questions for legal counsel?
No, I do not. Thank you, Vice Chairman Straka.
Yeah, I don't have any questions either. Thank you.
All right, I'll follow up on the cell phone issue. And we'll follow up on any other changes.
Yeah. Grammatic things here.
Can we approve everything with the understanding we would clarify the cell phone?
Sure, if you want. That'll be one less thing on your next agenda.
Well, that's what I'm thinking.
I move we do so.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. So we're going to approve the contracts with the changes as discussed. Moved by Mr. Miglerino, seconded by Ms. Bosom. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you for waiting for me.
Oh. Oh, wait, I just lost my agenda. All right, that brings us down to item number 18. Possible vote to convene executive session to mid-year review of the superintendent. Do we still want to do that tonight?
I don't know, Peter would like to be here.
Do we want to defer it till Peter can be here?
Is that all right?
Yeah.
I think he will.
Yeah, I'm good with that. So we can just plan on doing that in March, though now the mid-year is like the three-quarter year, but, because we didn't do it in January. Then that brings us to number 20. We can stand adjourned.
I second that.
Any objection? We will stand adjourned till our next meeting at 6:47.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Have a good night.
everybody.